And so first of all, up here, you're going to notice this is what's called three worlds. And this is by an artist named M.C. Escher. And Escher is known for his drawings because he has a lot of hidden things in his drawings. What is something that's hidden in here that you see?
Fish.
The fish. You see the fish right here, right? Okay. What else do you see that's kind of hidden that's not popping right out?
The reflections of the tree.
The reflections kind of the trees, right? Okay, and I have some Escher drawings around. I actually have one up there on the bulletin board. Okay, and this is another Escher drawing. And like I said, Escher is very famous for his drawings. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get started with Chapter 1, Section 1. And so the very first thing we're going to talk about are the building blocks of geometry. And when you think when you were a little kid, a little baby, the very first thing they gave you was probably building blocks, and you stacked them, and they thought that was great. Okay? And the thing about the building blocks is if you didn't have a good foundation, what happened to the tower that you were building? It fell, right? So it's one of those things in geometry, you're going to have a really good foundation on these very first few lessons so that when we progress throughout the semester, you're fine. Okay? And you don't collapse like a tower. And so the first three things we're going to talk about are a point, a line, and a plane. Okay? Oops, skipped one. Let's go back. A point. Now this is something I would get down if I were you. Okay. All right, I would get down pretty much everything on this slide that you see. Now there is something that's hidden here, okay, and you'll see that in a little bit. Okay, but the definition of a point, that is the most basic building block of geometry. Everything is based on points. A point also signifies a location. Okay. So a point is the most basic building block of geometry. Signifies a location. We name a point with a capital letter. Now generally you will see it italicized as well. Okay, so it can be italicized or non-italicized, but it's signified with a capital letter. And so down here is an example of what a point looks like, which you all should know what a point looks like. Okay, what would I call that point? I would call that point P, right? So there you go. We call that point P. And that's how you would say. Questions on a point? We're going to move on to the next one. Does anybody remember what the next one was? A line. Now a line is a straight arrangement of points extending forever in two directions. Okay. A straight arrangement of points extending forever in two directions. Now we name a line by any 2 points on the line. Or, notice what I have in pink. You can also name a line by a single lowercase italic letter. You will see the pink probably like on ACT diagrams, things like that. So this pink one is kind of important because it's not necessarily hit in the book so much as it's hit in other things that you'll run into. All right. What would I call this line?
PQ.
PQ. Could I also call it QP?
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's generally accepted to go in alphabetical order though. Okay, line PQ. Now, there are also 2 other ways I can write that. Do you see how I wrote that with the PQ and then the line above it? A miniature line, you can do that. You can also name it QP. Now say, for example, that I saw that in the drawing. what would I name that line? Line M, because that's a single lowercase italicized letter. So I could call this line numerous things. Okay, but M is not a point. Why do I know M is not a point? It's not a capital letter. So if you have any questions, like when you're doing your homework on this, it's not a capital letter, you don't see a dot on there. So those are two indicators that it's not going to be a point. Next, we're going to talk about a plane. Now when I think about a plane, okay, I think about a sheet of paper, a flat sheet of paper. Not one that's crumpled. But a plane is a flat surface that extends indefinitely forever and ever. So, like I put the piece of paper because that's how I remember what a plane is. Something that's flat. Now we name that with a capital script letter or any 3 points on the plane. So once again, there are 2 ways to name a plane. So what would I call this?
Plane.
Plane P. Right. Okay. What's another way I can name that plane? Plane A, D, K. Now, how do I know that A, D, and K are points? They're capital letters and they're not italicized here compared to the one that is. Okay, because this one, notice, is italicized. So those are just some kind of tricks that hopefully will help you out. Oops, skipped it. Go back. Ah, there we go. All right, so this is what I want you to do. You're in your groups right now. Okay? These points A, B, and C are collinear. Points P, Q, and R are not collinear. Based on this diagram here, these 2 diagrams, I want you to come up at your table with a definition for what it means to be collinear. Okay, I'm going to give you probably about 1 minute to 2 minutes. So come up with the definition, and then we'll come back together and we'll talk about it. Go.
This actually is going to work out pretty good. So if we just do that, I'm sure we can keep them in folders too.
Okay, try and finish up in the next 15 seconds, and then we'll get going with the definition. All right, you guys, what'd you come up with? What? I still think what? Maddie's our spokesperson. Oh, okay. Points that are on the same line. That's perfect. Okay? Collinear, points that are on the same line. Now, the other thing is, say for example, you had some questions about the diagrams. If you just looked at the word, you probably could come up with a definition too. What do you know co means? Like if you have co-captains on a football team or co-captains on a volleyball team. You share. Okay? More than one. Co means more than one. Linear. Okay? So basically it means more than one point on the same line. Or sharing the same line. Okay? So that's what collinear is. Coplanar. I'm actually going to give you a shorter amount of time now. I think you can probably get this done in roughly 30 seconds to a minute. Come up with a definition of coplanar. Go. All right, we got a definition of coplanar. Let's go with that group back there.
Points that are on the same plane.
Points that are on the same plane. Okay? So coplanar, points on the same plane. Once again, you can look at the root words as well. Co means more than one or sharing, and then planar, plane. Skip it. Okay, there we go. All right, in your groups again. A is in the pocket of the man. You see the A right there. They're kind of pointing the arrow there. Okay, C is on the woman's racket. So C is actually on the racket here. All the other balls are on the court. The court is like the ground. Okay. Based on that, I want you to answer these 3 questions. Okay, I'm going to give you a few minutes, and then we're going to come together and go again. Okay, yep, in your groups. If you're having trouble, there's also a diagram on page 30. Okay? So on page 30, if you want to look in your book, it's there as well.
No, wait, that would be on the way. Maybe C is. See the racket. C is on the racket. C is on the racket. Name for basketball. F, B, is. Oh. Oh, they just need to be flat on the ground. Oh, so B, D, and E. Yeah. They just have to be on the ground. And then that are not coplanar. A, C, E, and D.
E, G.
There's
Not not.
no, but they're just don't really have it's just literally right here.
All right. Girls, do we have 3 balls that are collinear? You got 3? Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you do?
B, D, and G.
B, D, and G. Oh, yep. Okay. B, D, and G. For those of you that don't see, here's B right here. Here's D right here. Here's G right here. Looks, in fact, like they lie on the same line. Probably could put even your pencil in your book to see if they do line up on the same line. Okay.
Would
What's-
F, E, G work?
What's another one?
F, E, G.
F, E, G. Yep. That actually looks like that one would work as well. Okay, basically, if you want the easy way to do this, if you're doing this like on your homework and you have a problem like this, take your pencil. Okay, if you have any questions, just put your pencil. If they line up with your pencil, they're good. They're on the same line. Okay, name 3 balls that are coplanar, but not collinear. All right, let's hit. You guys, what'd you get?
D, E, and G.
D, E, and G. They're on the same plane because they're on the ground, right? So that's, we know, is the same plane. And if you look there, really, there's no way that they're on the same line. So good. Did anybody have another one? Yeah.
A, X, and E.
A,
I mean, no. E, F,
you said what, B?
E,
B, and then
F,
F, okay. And what's the other one?
E.
E? Yep, that'll work too. B, F, and E. So there's actually a lot that would work on this one. All right, name 4 balls that are not coplanar. Now, if I were you, this is what I would do. If I was given a problem like this, I would find 3 that are, and then just find 1 that doesn't work. So what I would do is I could start with D, E and G. This is just kind of a technique. I know those are all coplanar, right? What is one ball that's not coplanar with D, E, and G?
C.
C or A. See how easy that is? You find 3 that are and you just find one that's not. Did anybody have any other 4?
A, C, B,
A, C,
F.
and B, and F. Okay? Yeah, that would work too. Alrighty, so far so good? Kind of understand the coplanar, collinear thing? Alright, now we're going to define what a line segment is. Got a few more definitions today. I know it's going to seem like there's a lot of definitions, but we got to start somewhere. A line segment. 2 points called endpoints, and all the points between them. You will also hear this referred to just as a segment, not a line segment. Okay, so either line segment or segment works. And we name the segment by the 2 endpoints. Okay, so you can't name it by anything else, by any other points on the line. It's just named by the 2 endpoints. So what would we name this one?
Segment AB.
Segment AB. Okay, there's also some other ones here that I've got written.
Just a one.
Okay, we could also name it segment BA. Generally, we don't do that though because it's accepted to go in alphabetical order. The other way now is we can do AB with a little line segment above it. Okay, some people have asked, do we need to put the dots on the line segment? The answer is no. So would you need to do this? No. Okay. Does it hurt if you do? No, not really. You just don't see it done usually. So. Okay, so those are 2 other ways you can write the segment. Did I skip one again? No, okay, so we're good. All right. So then now we're going to look at kind of how you use the word M, or not word M, but the letter M. Can anybody figure out what that M maybe means? Measure. Okay, so this is how we write it. AB equals 2 inches. Notice there's not a segment line. The minute we put that segment symbol, we have to put an M. Okay, so basically if you have no symbols, you don't have to worry about anything. You just have what it equals. The minute you add that symbol right up here, you have to put an M. So same thing down here in the example. MN equals 5 units. MN doesn't have anything on it, so I don't need anything else. The minute I add this segment bar, I have to put the M. So ideally, you can see it's easier to use the first one. Okay, but just so that you understand, that's how the M works. And the M just means the measure. Okay. All right, congruent. We've got a few more things we'll try and get through. Congruent means geometrically equal. So basically, congruent and equal are real similar, except for we say congruent in geometry. And when we deal with like algebra, we say equal. Now this diagram, I don't know if you necessarily need to write this down. You could probably pay attention and understand what it means. These single marks mean these 2 segments are congruent to each other. So when you see those 2 little tick marks, they mean they're the same. Okay? These double marks, the reason why we put a double mark is because if you want to show more than one segment is congruent, you can't just put 1 if they're not all the same. So that means 2 is congruent to 2. They're the same. 3 is congruent to 3. Okay, now notice here what they've written. That's what the congruent sign looks like, and so you might want to get that down by congruent. This is the congruent sign. It's an equal sign with a little squiggle up. You will also see it written, just kind of for a little trivia thing, because you might see it written sometimes here, 2 little squiggles. So both of those things mean congruent. Okay, midpoint. You should already know the definition of this. A midpoint is just a point in the exact middle of a segment. A midpoint bisects a segment. What does this word mean? Bisect. Cut into 2. Okay, bi means 2, sect, 2 sections. Okay, so real quick, we're just going to go through this in class, and then I think we've got another diagram, and then I'll go ahead and give you your assignment. We should hopefully get done. Name each midpoint and the segment it bisects. So what would be the midpoint in this diagram right here? F. What segment does it bisect?
C.
CD. Why does it not bisect EG?
Oh, because it has the distance there.
Because it has the distances here. Okay, there's distances here to say they're equal. It looks like it bisects EG, but you don't have any proof, and that's the biggest thing with geometry. You have to have proof. You can't just say, oh, it looks that way. Okay, so let's look at the midpoint here. What's the midpoint in the second diagram? K. What segment does it bisect?
JL.
JL. Is H a midpoint?
No.
Because?
It's not a segment.
Because?
It's an endpoint.
It's not on the line. Okay. All right, what's the midpoint here?
And
No, there isn't one.
There's actually not one on this one. Remember what I said. It might look like it's in the middle, but unless you have proof, you can't state. So this one actually has no midpoint. Okay? Name all the congruent segments. Use congruent symbols to write your answers. So what would be a congruent segment here? CF
And FD.
is congruent to FD. So this is how you would write it. Okay? What would be another one? HL is HJ. Okay, so we can kind of get the swing things. We're running short on time real quick, so I'm going to go ahead and skip to the next slide and see if there's anything we need to talk about. Ray, yep, we need to get this down. And this will be the last thing. Okay, a ray is basically half of a line. It starts at a point and extends forever in a direction. Okay, it's half of a line. Starts at a point and extends forever in a direction. It's named by the end point and a point on the line. Now on this one, it's really important what that first letter is. The first letter always indicates the end point. Always. That's where you start. Okay, so it's really important you understand that. And notice how these are written. Okay, here's your assignment. Okay, now, it sounds like a lot, but you should be able to zip through pretty quick. Okay, we'll pick up tomorrow. Okay, we'll start by grading this, so make sure you have it done. If you have questions, come see me tomorrow morning. All right, but should be pages 33, 34, 1 through 31.
Is it the same time it ends as last year?